Hey everybody, it is Audi from Modern Retro Radio again, talking with my two bestest Jerry Lewis fans, the choreographer to the stars, Miss Cat, and the guy with the beard who looks like an escapee from the Washington State Prison is our friend Thad. We are here for another round of our Jerry Lewis roundtable discussion. This is our second video. The last one I was very pleased at the positive feedback we got. We talked about a lot of touchy stuff, and all the comments were shockingly positive. So that means that the content was good. That's what I think. And I just have a little surprise here because I want folks to know that Kat has joined my team as one of the regular daily rotation air talents for my web station, Modern Retro Radio. She's Classic Cat on Modern Retro Radio. And if you want to hear how she sounds on the station, just check this out here. I just want to give you all a little taste of what she sounds like. And hopefully this thing won't malfunction. Okay, hang on one second.
Hey, this is Classic Cat bringing you the one and only Robbie Williams, who's giving us these cool James Bond vibes. You're listening to his song Bully on Modern Retro Radio.
Yes, that's Cat introducing Bully by Robbie Williams on the station. And she's done some more. And she did a Dean Martin song that I'll be putting in the weekend rotation because I play classic stuff on the weekends. We're going to talk about mainly the Jerry Lewis Telethon, the whole MDA thing. But before we get into that, the beard, why?
I was going to tell you, this is my homage to Which Way to the Front.
Well, that's the way to the front, the back, up, down, in, out, and all around. All right. Now, you played a character in an independent short film where you grew a beard, and you played a murderer, or whatever you were. So you grew the beard. But it's because you hurt your foot? Is that why your ankle, whatever it is?
This is probably that clown pride depression era where you just kind of go for a few weeks and it'll go away soon. Trust me.
All right.
I'm having that 70s Jerry look.
Well, okay.
Your least favorite look.
Well, you could clean it up a little. I don't know. Yeah, kind of like like a Ted Kaczynski Unabomber, Tony Orlando thing, all in one. It frightens me. So, okay. So, now we're going to talk about the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I'm not really one on like chronology from A to Z. Like whenever I get a book, I always start in the middle. It's just how I am. And I actually let's pick up our discussion, talk about the Jerry Lewis Telethon in 2010, which was the last year that Jerry did with, it was the last year with Jerry as national chairman. And then how soon after that 2010 telethon did they give Jerry the boot? Was
the
it
next year?
So
yeah.
So he was definitely not in the next year. How soon after the telethon was it? Like, did it wait a few months?
They
waited till all the pledges showed up, probably.
Well, it was definitely right before the 2011 one.
It was before. Wow.
Yeah, because I had just become a fan in 2011, and then like a couple of weeks later, it was like, nope, he's gone.
That's when you became a fan, right? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I had.
So you never got the experience staying up all night with Jerry and that great experience on Labor Day weekend. You never got to have that.
I did do I had seen him throughout the years, but just like for maybe like 30 minutes or something, and growing up. But other than that, nope, I missed out.
Kat, is that when you joined the forum in 2011, the old forum?
Like the end of 2012.
2012.
I was staying away from commenting or participating for like a year, and then I joined the.
You were a lurker, as they call it.
I was lurking, yes.
Hey, speaking of that forum, I always wonder who was it that played. There was someone who had a profile there patterned after the character from Family Jewels, Uncle, which
Everett.
was the clown.
Uncle Everett.
And he made
Everett.
comments in that character. He would say, "No chance, sweetheart," and "Hooray for you, sucker," and all that. Do we know who that was? Was it one of y'all?
No.
I always
Wasn't
wondered.
me.
Seriously?
That would have been
It wasn't
great,
me.
though.
Oh, it wasn't you. Okay. Well, bravo, whoever did it.
I remember that now, though. I do
Yeah.
remember that now. Actually, now that you brought it up, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. He did everything except call kids the squealing brats, but, those squealing brats, But I always wonder who that was. Man, maybe somebody will leave a comment, because I always wonder who did that. So, well, I guess I have the most logged hours watching the MDA Telethon.
Yes.
My first exposure to the telethon was in 1977 when I was negative 15 years old. And I won't give my actual age. I was a tiny kid. And it was shortly after I'd seen Jerry Lewis for the first time, which was in The Nutty Professor on a weekend afternoon movie. And I didn't know what I was seeing. It's just that I was just drawn to him, It was just something very magical about how Jerry Lewis, spoke to me. So, but my grandparents watched the telethon every Labor Day. And I remember in 1979, this is when the McDonald's Big Mac was like the new big thing. And, and it was a big promotion, go to McDonald's, get a Big Mac and help Jerry's kids. And we actually went out, and I remember getting my first Big Mac, which was incredibly sloppy and I hated it, but we did it for Jerry. But I was seeing just these glimpses of the telethon. But I didn't really start going out of my way to watch it until the 82 telethon, or excuse me, 83 telethon. Seems like I was always missing it. Somehow I missed the 80, the 81, and I think I missed the 82 as well. But by 83, I didn't miss it. Did not miss it. Went on my way to see it, and it was, I believe the 83 one was, when he was fully recovered from the heart attack, and he looked fantastic. So I got to see the last 3 years that Jerry did the full 22 or 21 and a half hours, and it was a fantastic time. He was very healthy, and of course, he could just speak on the inroads of genetic engineering and gene therapy. And, he really was so instrumental in hope. And I said in the last video, he represented hope for the victims. And I'm telling you, those Monday afternoons, those last 2 or 3 hours, they really were exciting times because that tote board was just going up and up and up, and you could just feel the energy. Even if you're sitting at home, you can just feel the energy. And, and to my knowledge, I think I don't recall ever watching a telethon where they didn't get the dollar more. But I'm just glad that I have, those memories. I think the first time I recorded any of the telethon was the 1988 telethon. Someone I knew had a VCR, and that was, I believe, the very first thing I recorded, or one of the first things I recorded. So I got to record some of the 88 telethon, and he did the announcer's test. So I got it just when he did the announcer's test all the way through. I used to know it, but I don't know it anymore. Do y'all know it?
Oh, I know it.
Well, all right, I'll tell you what. Pick up where I leave off, because I only can get so far.
Okay.
And then one hen, 2 ducks. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises, 6 Macedonians in full battle array. No, 6 pairs of darnell tweezers. Excuse me. 1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises, 6 pairs of darnell whatever tweezers, 7 Macedonians in full battle array. Take it, cat.
8 brass monkeys from the ancient sacred crypts of Egypt. 9 lyrical, spherical, diabolical dust. Oh, wait, no. Now you put me on the spot.
It's hard. It is hard.
I used to do this all the time for acting class.
Oh, wow.
Oh, darn. Take 2.
Well, what's number 10? What's number 10?
Well, we haven't gotten to number 9 yet.
I was going to kind of let you slide on that one, though.
9, apathetic, diabetic, sympathetic, apathetic, diabetic, all men on roller skates with marked propensity towards procrastination.
For propensity and sloth. Yes.
And then
Okay.
10 lyrical, spherical, diabolical denizens of the deep who haul all around the quote, the quaver, quivery, all at the same time.
Same time. Ta-da!
There we go.
Kind of the ultimate tongue twister.
Yes. I remember watching him do that on the 88 telethon, and I think he even talked about how hey, if you have a VCR and you're at home recording this on video, and he always said he called them not video cassette but video cassettes, and I just happened to be recording it, so that was pretty cool. It was great to watch. I think my favorite telethon, as far to me, the closest telethon that I saw that had that late night spontaneity and just pure entertainment of the 70s was the 92 telethon. Right, I think it was 20 hours of like 2 a.m. and maybe 5 or 6 a.m. Just that whole block was just great. There was this comedian named Bud E. Love, who was like this lounge singer, very satirical, sarcastic type humor. I mean, and Lisa Gibbons was with him, and he did this 50s rock and roll review performed, and it was just and Jerry, they were just cutting up, and it was fantastic. 93 was great, 94 was great. And what I liked about the 95 telethon was that he had really gotten back into shape, because I think that was when Damn Yankees was getting ready to start. You could just see how much leaner he was, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but I just have a lot of memories of watching the telethon. And the 2000 telethon is I would say one of the all-time best, because that was the last time he did a pratfall. At age 74, he did a pratfall. And the 2002 telethon was just phenomenal. Probably, as far as all the telethons I saw, it definitely had the biggest list of like stars, like a lot of star power that year, including Sean Hayes from Will and Grace, who had played him in a film that made for TV movie then. So, but I hated that you guys didn't get to experience that, because the telethons truly were magical.
The 2010 one is, I remember wanting to see, because I was kind of getting more interested in Jerry back then, but like I looked on Labor Day in 2010, and I didn't see him on the TV at all. I couldn't find a station where he was on. So
well, they really started screwing with the programming by then. They had been doing that since at least the 2004 telethon. It was very annoying. I was in Ohio in 2004, and it didn't even come on until almost 11 p.m. When really it should start around like 7:30 or 8:30, depending on your time zone. So that was a pain in the tuchus.
I think the 70s and 80s were the prime telethon years of just great entertainment, and then just Jerry getting down to I always like when he gets fired up about either the numbers or people that were just going against him, and like the critics of the telethon, and him just telling them like it is.
My favorite moments are when he just spoke extemporaneously, and there were some moments later when he did that in the 98 telethon. He really went into explaining this is not a mental disease, it's physical. And he talked about how a kid could just die from suffocation from not having the muscle to simply clear his throat. And then I just remember him talking about, if you can watch this and not care, then, I have to question your nobility. And that was in 98. So he had to fire. And I believe in 2008, this is when he was, after he had lost all the weight from the prednisone, and he was 82, and he was really on fire, even though he was in his slower period. In the 2008 telethon, Jerry was Jerry. The only thing about the telethon in 2008 that was weird to me was he was really admonishing the crew a lot, especially those first couple of hours, because he could still direct while on the spot, you know. So, but you know, now, do y'all think they let him go because of what he said in 2007? The illiterate fag comment?
No, I mean,
that'd be 3 years.
Possible. It's a possibility, but
do you think that was a heavy contributing factor? Okay, so do y'all think then it was just because even some of the fans in the discussion forum said, I was really disappointed at some of the comments at the discussion forum. I was happy to see Jerry try to dance again. I mean, he only did a couple of steps, but even some of our fans at the forum were saying, you know, Jerry needs to hang it up, you know.
Well, I think maybe that, but like they all knew how off the cuff and some of the remarks he would say throughout the years, either they just got more politically correct about their approach.
Yeah, but they forgot that no one would be watching it if it weren't for Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry was the reason it became the institution that it did.
When did he get his Oscar? What year was that?
2009, February 2009.
Okay, because I have an article where somebody wrote it and they were like, "Oh, is he gonna say something at the awards? Is he gonna be proper?" Or and there were people that were speculating, you know, around that time of 2009 that, you know, is he gonna say something that. And they were all kind of worried, if I remember correctly, with this article.
And that's what's so odd about it. There's numerous amounts, a lot of footage of Jerry accepting awards where he never said anything inappropriate.
And he hosted 3 years, 1956, 1957, and 1959. So he was a great host then, even though he got for the 1959 one that ran over a little bit. They said it was 20 minutes, but it was just like 5 minutes, really.
Oh, I've seen
he got the blame for that, but he did a pretty good job considering, you know, it wasn't his fault at all.
And how many Academy Award ceremonies have run over since then? Almost all of them.
Yes, it was just like an hour. Like, we wish it was an hour.
Yeah, I've seen very little of that footage of the Academy Awards. I really can't even. I've seen so little of it. You know, to me, Billy Crystal is probably the best they've ever had. You know, Billy Crystal, who loves Jerry as well. Speaking of Billy Crystal, that same year, '98, Jerry got some Legend Lifetime Achievement Award for. The American Comedy Awards, which was aired on ABC, and that was a big deal. But you know that idea that I'm working on, where I want to do my own montage of Jerry Lewis's best moments. So yeah, watch him get the. I think this is it here. Yeah, when Jerry was honored at the American Comedy Awards, they showed a montage, you know, demonstrating his legacy that was so slapped together. And they just picked any random footage. So Kat and Thad, you know, I've got several pages here of clips that I want to, you know, do. And because, you know, I mean, moments from all the films, like truly funny moments.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting that together. But I do have some of my moments here, you know, and I love it.
I could always put that together, or my friend Jessica, she actually put together a really touching tribute that I'm going to release on the anniversary of Jerry's passing. It was
okay.
Her Smile is the song I had this idea for this video for years, but I just never got around to it. And I gave her the idea of what I wanted for it, and she put together a really great video, and I was crying, and it was really beautiful. A much better tribute than he got on the Oscars or even TCM. I think it was much better than those.
Yeah. Well, the Oscar was about his humanitarian work, but that.
I was just gonna say I saw the TCM one, and they picked like I think two. It was very sporadic clips. It just
like some of the Colgate stuff, and it just. I mean, there are some funny moments. Actually, there's on YouTube. Someone took the time to put together some really funny compilations from the Colgate years, consisting of just ad libs and bloopers. Truly funny moments. That's probably the best compilation pertaining to the Colgate comedy shows out there. And it's like all the ad libs and stuff like that. It's really, really funny. Him and Dean, without a doubt.
Going back to the telethon, one of my favorite moments was when Jerry said that he was going to get a specific amount, and he took off his pants. He said, "I'm going to take off, if I get this amount, I'm going to take off my pants." And he got that amount. He did what he had to do, and he strutted around on stage.
74, wasn't it?
81.
No.
81? No, I think it was 70. 70. I want to say 74 or 75.
Well, I know he did it one year when he had started wearing the glasses, the same glasses he wore on Phil Donahue and The King of Comedy.
He might have done it again. Let's see. There's a YouTube channel where somebody will find a bunch of tapes and he'll restore them, and they had like the first hour from the 74 or 75 telethon, I think.
Oh, wow.
Did any of you see that one?
No.
I downloaded it because I was like, oh, well, this might disappear pretty soon. But I want to say 75 or 74, and it was the first whole hour of it.
75.
Which is extremely
1975. Yeah, I just looked up the video.
I think he did it in 81 too, because I know Jerry's hair. I could guess the year of. If you show me any picture of Jerry Lewis, I could guess what year it was by his hair. Now, if that didn't make me a fan, I don't know what 81. He you could tell he was a heart attack waiting to happen. If you look compared to how he looked, of course, then again, he looked great in 82 though, and that was before the heart attack. But in 81, he was kind of on a kick, a high kick, because even though it took 2 years to come out in America, Hardly Working was just a huge hit.
When did he? Oh, go ahead.
No, when did he make the film?
No. When did he do Cracking Up in 83 after he came back from his health problems? I think it was 83, wasn't it?
It looks like it was filmed in 82, but it didn't come out till 83.
Yeah, and he had
so around
stopped
the
smoking.
same.
He makes a joke about that in the film where like he stopped smoking.
But he smokes in the film though.
But then the guy stops him and is like punching him everywhere.
That's a great gag. I've always loved that gag in that movie.
I think I always wondered.
You remember that?
Oh, that was a great gag. Yeah, wasn't it Dick Buckus or Oh yeah.
I don't remember the actor, but just like randomly in the movie, he just go to a museum and the doctor guy's the statue, where he's walking into an elevator and the guy who walks in after him.
There are a lot. The best gag in Cracking Up, and I think it was filmed before the heart attack. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive it was filmed before the heart attack. And for those who watched the last video who are probably wondering, what's the latest with Chris Lewis pretending to be his granddaughter, sending you mean messages over and over and over again?
No more. I blocked them all. So no more of that.
Wow.
Hopefully we don't have any more.
Have you gotten any copyright strikes, or have you gotten any copyright strikes? Nothing?
I put all my videos back up online. I just have to deal with trolls. For some reason, one of my videos has gotten a lot of views, but a lot of non-fans. So there's a lot of like ridiculous comments about anything to do with Jerry's life. So.
Oh, there are a lot of people who love to get on YouTube and just, trash them. Okay, Jerry's an asshole. He could be one, but so can I. We all can be, if you push our buttons.
Yeah.
Now the whole leaving the sons out of the will thing, I can't defend that. Jerry is just going to have to just live with that blemish, and the Susan Lewis thing. Those are two things.
Well, the Susan thing, I think, is something else, but leaving his sons out of his will, I don't see anything wrong with that. Very many people have left their kids, but he does leave his sons trust and stuff.
But now that I know what I know, now that what I've learned from you, okay, it does sort of make some sense now, because we know that at least three of them, would sell property, obtain property, and sell it, and Anthony, Chris, and Joseph, right?
Well, Chris did the artwork, stolen artwork thing, and then Joseph sold off his mother's jewelry and other things from the house.
Gary sold some of the family jewelry for drugs and also some video equipment, I believe. He really had some hard times in the late 60s and early 70s. Gary could have spent a lot of time in jail, and, his father took care of all that and, spent a lot of money to get him out on bail, like $500,000 worth throughout the years. And he blamed his father.
Do you know what some of the charges were?
Well, one of them had something to do with a gas station. Like, he held up a gas station.
No way.
Yeah, and all of this was from two articles that I found from the early 70s. 500,000, that's a lot of money back then.
Do you have that article?
Yes.
Please send it. Kat, you are incredible. Now, again, I am not judging, because if Gary was addicted to what I think he was addicted to, that's not at all surprising.
Yeah.
Because that's an addiction where you have to have it every day, several times a day, and you would do almost anything. And it's a horrible, horrible, horrible illness to have. But I hadn't heard that. And so Jerry,
and to be honest, I'm not sure if the gas station was worse than the potential rape accusation from, I don't know. I don't see him as that, but you just don't know. And there was something that his mother mentioned in her book, that he had ran into an old lady's car, and he was later picked up by the police, and Frank Sinatra volunteered to step in, and I think it was much more than hitting an old lady's car, and I think it was the time that they picked up him for, like, drugs. I think Patty just glossed over that.
Wow.
Yeah. But the thing is, if Frank Sinatra stepped in for such a minor thing, then what else was he stepping in for? So I think he took care of all those other things.
There's an audio interview with Gary Lewis, I believe from 1976. He was interviewed for some newspaper, and the guy recorded the interview. And Gary just sounds great. He sounded like he was very up on current music and bands that he was really into. I'm pretty sure it was 1976. So I don't know if that was during all that or before or after. I do know that it seems like he probably cleaned himself up by the mid 70s, because I think he was starting to play, the oldie circuit by 76 or something like that. And he came back from Vietnam a mess, as did many soldiers, but that happens in unjust wars. But does anyone have a copy of the letter that Jerry wrote to the president for Gary to not serve?
Mm-mm.
I do know what he said, but I haven't seen the letter.
About it, but I've
it,
never seen it, I think.
Yeah. Jerry talked about it in his 82 autobiography. He said it was written but never sent.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. So, well, when you think of the telethon, what questions do you have that I might be able to answer?
I was going to ask you when you started recording, but then you answered that before I could ask you. But you said you started in what, 88, and then did you record every year after that? Because you unfortunately lost all of your collection, which is terrible. So did you have all of those?
No. Well, they were all VCRs that belonged to other people. I didn't start recording it on my own until 92.
So did you have like 92 on?
Yes. Oh, yes.
To 2010.
Until let's see, until 2004, actually. 92 to 2004, I had pretty much the lion's share of the footage. And I usually would pause during the local spots unless something extraordinary was going on. I pretty much really focused on just Jerry. I was a big pauser, because I just really wanted Jerry. But there were a lot of big performances that I recorded too. But my focus was really, I wanted the moments with Jerry.
I have something for you both. So you remember that whole thing with Joan Rivers, right?
Yeah.
So basically, Joan Rivers and Jerry Lewis did not get along whatsoever. They did in the late 60s or so, but they also claimed at one point that they had never seen or talked to each other in person.
I think they were just making a dig at each other.
Yeah, and Joan Rivers had this vendetta against him for years, and she said that he supposedly walked off her show, but then they had never supposedly seen each other, so how can he be on her show? So that doesn't make sense. But, so there is video evidence. I've seen the show. He didn't walk off at any time, and he was there for the whole thing, and they seemed to have a good...
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, a good conversation with each other. And apparently she had this thing against him for all time. And then he supposedly sent this threatening letter to her. Honestly, I'm not sure if I buy some of what either one of them said.
If it happened in the 70s, it was probably the Percodan talking.
Yeah.
Don't worry, that's just a Percodan.
Yeah.
I was just off my rocker.
Joan did appear on his MDA Telethon in 1967 or 66, but I think it was 1967. So I do remember her saying she didn't like his... how he was conducting himself on the telethon, the way he was doing things just in general. But she said she had never been on there. But she was, and so that's interesting.
Did he do the Jones talk show, and was it 68?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
it
it was
68? Okay.
Yep.
So then she apparently didn't like how he's running, but she invited him on her own talk show a year later.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is just bizarre. She put her time there on the telethon, then something might have happened. Well, no, she was still had him on her show, so nothing happened on the telethon then. Not sure what it was after that.
Sometimes actors or sometimes famous people will work together and have complete and utter contempt for each other, and sometimes it's very obvious. I mean, there's a performance of when Tom Jones had his weekly TV show. This is probably around 70, 71, and Aretha Franklin is on his show, and they perform a duet. She's at the piano, and he's standing beside her, and they're doing this duet, and she never looks at him one time. She doesn't make eye contact with him one time, and people notice. And but there's also other awkward moments. I think on YouTube from Dick Cavett's show, actor Chad Everett, who of course he was. I want to talk about him on a telethon, okay? But Chad Everett was on the Dick Cavett show with Lily Tomlin, and Chad Everett's wife was brought up, and he was just being self-deprecating and funny, and maybe a little bit chauvinistic. But somehow he just said he referred to his wife, said, "Yeah, she's the best thing I own," or something like that. And Lily Tomlin said, "Wow," and she walked off, right? And so it created this awkward moment where Chad Everett and Dick Cavett are still talking, and Lily Tomlin just walked off, and it aired that way. But, it just happens in show business. But what do y'all know about, I believe, was it 1983 was the last year that Chad Everett appeared? I always wanted to see that footage of Chad Everett on the telethon, and he was one of the co-anchors, like a Casey Kasem or David Hartman or something like that. And he was supposedly very obviously under the influence, and Jerry never had him back again. Do you know about that?
No, I'm gonna have to look that up now.
And just like the thing about Jerry Lewis's housekeeper being Geraldo, I'm not hallucinating it. I saw it. It happened. It's hard to find, and it was on YouTube forever. And I know I have it on one of my data DVDs somewhere, and I'm going to prove to you that it did happen. Have you still not found footage of that?
I found.
I think I tried to look it up.
I found an episode, but like nothing.
No,
unless they're not mentioned by name or something. It's possible.
It was an episode of Geraldo where all these people who worked for famous people were on.
Yeah, I found that episode. Just not the part you're talking about.
Well, one day, okay, you're gonna find it. You know what? I have trays and trays and trays of data DVDs of stuff from Jerry Lewis stuff. I guess I just need to just dive in and find it. But if you could, please research. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say you might look through your data DVDs and find stuff that you forgot or never knew that you had to begin with.
Oh, that's already happened.
You might even find Clown Cry.
Yes. I don't know about that, but Kat, can you look into the Chad Everett thing on it, because that's a real thing. I don't know.
What do you think about the John Lennon Yoko Ono appearance on the telethon? That was like, it was a mysterious, like, everybody was like, this footage has disappeared forever, and then finally appeared,
Yeah, and it was it's pretty cool footage, and I love the fact that John Lennon dug Jerry and vice versa. Jerry Lewis was a big star, and everybody in the business liked him except for Joan Rivers. But back then even she liked him. That was a period in John Lennon's life where he was trying to he had gotten a backing band together, and he was trying to get some issues sorted because Nixon was just making his life hell with immigration. So he couldn't tour for whatever reason. But he could do a bunch of benefit stuff, so they did like benefit concerts, and stuff like that. And the telethon is probably why they did that. It was great exposure for a good cause. That was around the same time they appeared also on Dick Cavett, and when Yoko Ono starts her shrilling, the sound man killed her microphone. I don't know if I've ever seen that footage. It was with John Lennon and Chuck Berry. Look for John Lennon and Chuck Berry on the Dick Cavett show. when Yoko starts her, hey, suddenly her mic goes dead. And the sound man did the world a favor. So I gotta say.
There was also like some myth that they walked off angry, because for a while only audio existed of the show.
Yeah.
Of that part of the show. And like people thought that John Lennon and Yoko Ono walked off angry when Jerry started playing his trumpet or whatever. But no, they had a good time. There was no such thing. They were having a good time, and Jerry sang "Give Peace a Chance," which is hilarious.
Yeah. I was trying to remember the other song they did. What is it that, sir?
Well, I was gonna go a little bit off topic, but like, you were saying how like audio only existed, and still like Jerry saved everything he did, right? So is there anything that he did not have? Because he saved, I think, everything, every television appearance, everything. I think there's only a couple things that he admitted that he didn't have, like maybe the first Martin and Lewis thing, or something. Ed Sullivan, but I think everything else he has or had or whatever. I don't know if that got donated to Library of Congress or what.
You know, remember Thad, when I was still on Facebook, I was assuring you that within a year, all this stuff that was at Library of Congress would like suddenly be all over YouTube. Okay, I was wrong, but but I still think that one day it's all going to turn up. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. Or I'll dig it up. I'll get it out.
There we go. I was gonna so 2 questions. Was there any guests that Jerry could not get for the telethon? And also, didn't you want to touch on, you were saying that Sammy Davis Jr. and him had a falling out, and then they reconciled in the 80s or something?
If I'm not mistaken, from 70, Sammy is not seen with Jerry at all from either late 73 or early 74 all the way until 79. Now, and Sammy is very prominently on the 79 telethon, and he had done a number, and of course, and everyone's applauding, and then Sammy walks off the stage. Jerry says to Sammy, "It's better like this. It's better like this." So that clearly meant that they had reconciled. I just don't know why it happened. Sammy wrote, I don't know. We probably need to get a book written by someone who knew Sammy. Because
did you say 79 or 78? Because 78 they did the golf stick skit thing. I think it was.
Was it 78 telethon?
Yeah.
That's right. That was a 78 telethon.
So maybe it was like 5 years.
Okay, I knew it was like a 5-year period, and
that just seems so odd because they were so close, you know.
Well, 78 or 79 was also when Sammy got clean, because apparently he got hardcore into cocaine, but I don't know if that's the reason, because I heard Johnny Carson did it, and Johnny Carson was a major cokehead, and I mean they all were.
I mean, I know that, I think, didn't Jerry do the Follies with Sammy Davis in 73, right?
That was 73.
And then I've seen a Tonight Show appearance with Sammy, and then, but I haven't really heard much about him in the mid-70s, really. As far as what he was doing, or just concerts or what.
Sometimes when you get my age, you kind of blend memories, because I also know that 5-year period is also that Jerry claims to not be able to remember. He doesn't remember, is it 73 to 78 where he has no memory because of his addiction?
Yeah, 74, 78, yeah.
Well, yeah, and then so after Clown Cried, like it's like Jerry vanished. Like, he didn't do any movies. He only did TV.
Oh, he was all over TV in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, you see him, I think, like Mike Douglas and a lot of other
Sonny and Cher.
It's scarce Sonny and Cher. It's scarce to find a lot of those.
And a lot of he did
appearances.
He was all over television, and he even said I think the first Sonny and Cher show he did was in 72, And he even said, I spent a lot of years, putting down television. I'd always put down television, but he talked about what a great experience he had. And actually, Jerry did probably one of his best. I don't really care for Jerry Lewis's 70s bits. He had some good ideas. When he did Cher's, when Sonny and Cher got divorced, Jerry appeared on her 75 solo show, and he did a bit that he wrote about the movie theater with the feel around. So everything that was going on in the movie that you experienced in the seat. So if it was raining in the movie, it would rain on him and all that. So that was a good idea. And then in '72 when he was on Sonny and Cher, he did that chess tournament with Sonny Bono. That was brilliant.
I guess he foresaw the future then, because they do that now with 4D movie theater experiences where they're like spraying stuff in your face or like poking at you.
So
is there any guest or celebrity that didn't want to go on the telethon at all, or that didn't get invited that we know of?
My guess is that the rock people didn't want to go on. It seems like there aren't a lot of rock, with the exception of John Lennon. It just seems like a lot of the rock acts, like you didn't see the Elton Johns, you didn't see the McCartney, or of course I doubt.
Oh, really? Paul McCartney and Elton John didn't go on the telethon?
Well, John Lennon did, with Yoko, but but Elton, they may have had like live feeds or something like that. I'm talking about in the '70s, like there in Vegas
Ringo did. I don't know about Paul, but Ringo.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. What do you say?
I don't think I've seen that footage. I think it was like 1980 or something. I think that's what it was.
Have any of you followed? I think it was it Shout Factory picked up the rights for the MDA stuff, but they were only doing, I think, clips, like short clips. I believe it was Shout Factory, but don't quote me because I think it was. And then isn't there, or it's a YouTube channel I'm thinking of, but one of them is, but it's short clips though. They're not doing
the official MDA Telethon is putting up, and that's another thing that ticks me off. For 2011 and 12 and 13, the MDA act like Jerry Lewis never even existed. But then when their fundraising went in the toilet, and especially around the time he died, now they're just praising him and showing all kinds of great stuff when they completely tried to erase. There would be no MDA without him.
I don't even think they did a tribute video, did they? I don't think or if they did, it was like 30 seconds long.
I watched remember that prime time Sorry Excuse for a telethon they did that I told you about? That was like 2 hours long. The one where they got the guy Nigel from dance So You Think You Can Dance? Yeah. They did a little 2-minute instrumental thing, slow montage, and then at the end where the card's going up, he says, "We love you, Jerry," and I'm sure Jerry was like going, "Yeah, you're right, yeah, okay," but that was such an insult. I watched it just to see how pathetic it would be, and it was.
Do you think he even watched Jerry even watched the telethon after he left?
Jerry took the high road. He was in Nashville where I live, doing an Ed Professor musical, and one of the local reporters for a writer called the Nashville Scene said, "Hey, how do you fire Jerry Lewis?" And Jerry said, "Well, pretty damn easy." So Jerry didn't give them the satisfaction of acting bitter and hurt, and I'm sure he was thinking of his kids, of the victims, for that.
What I would like to see is more 50s and 60s stuff.
Yeah.
Before it went national. Yeah.
So they did 52 through 57, they did the telethon. Both him and Dean, of course, did the 52 through 56, and I think they skipped 58, and then Jerry did another solo one in 59. And after they did specials, in the early 60s. They still had the 19-hour ones in 1956, because there's a thing about, because it was Dean and Jerry's last appearance on television, and they weren't speaking to each other at all. Besides, other than on camera, it was very awkward.
Dean and Jerry's last appearance together on TV, it was a telethon?
Yeah.
Wow.
So the TV critics were like, you guys need to hang it up or something because we saw no love between you two. And it was very uncomfortable to watch for 19 hours, and you're barely looking at each other.
I would like to see that, because when you watch their last movies, you just cannot tell. My favorite movie of theirs is, well, one of them is Hollywood at Bus and Partners. Both came out their last year together. You cannot tell. Well, I know, Kat, you said you had something to say, but I just wanted to say, for the record, how much I enjoyed the video you did with your good friend, Kate. What's her name?
Kayla.
Kayla. The video you guys did on all the Martin Lewis reunions. It was informative, hilarious. I love what she said about what moo meant. That was just awesome. I was like, okay, that's a girl I need to know. But fantastic video. Fantastic video.
Thank you.
I watched every bit of it.
Awesome.
Every bit of it.
Yeah, I'll tell her that. She'll be watching this one too.
Yes.
So I found this article a few years ago where this journalist was trying to research why Jerry had been doing the telethon or MDA work, or why he had been interested in it. And this was around, 1958, I believe. Let's see this.
Oh, wow.
Oh, 1962, sorry. And the name of the article is Why Jerry Lewis Gives Pieces of His Life Away. And it talked about like some of the programs he had done with Little Boy Blue as one of the muscular dystrophy.
Poster children?
Yes, poster children, sorry. And that child, his father had been in prison for killing his mother, and so the child had, he didn't have a future birthday. He was dying, and so Jerry put together all this TV program with all these special guests, and he gave that little boy a really good show, and the little kid loved it.
A private at home show or something like that? Or?
Yeah, it was just, I think he was in the hospital, and they found a way to just have the show broadcast to his room. And there's like another similar thing where there was like a teenager that Jerry had been phoning a lot, and the teenager had muscular dystrophy, and Jerry had been in contact with this kid, and he also did another show for him from the Hollywood Bowl. And it says, before he went on air, he phoned the boy and said, when I finish my number, I'm going to walk up to the camera and wink. And nobody in the world will know what it's for except for you and me. And that's wink is for you. And then after the show, Jerry phoned to ask the kid if he, liked the show and everything. And the mother picked up, and she said that her son had passed. So during
that,
I think it was at the end of the show. He had gone to see him though, so he had just died.
So he was hanging on for that.
Yeah, and Jerry was really moved by that and just stunned.
Yeah.
And then the journalist had asked Jack Keller, who was Jerry's publicist at the time, what is it with MDA and helping out with this specific disease? What is it? That's the question on everybody's mind for all these years. And the journalist said, I think that it's possible that Jerry believes he only has a certain amount of time to live. And he thinks by giving away pieces of his life that
he'll live on in their lives and in their spirits, and he'll, whether it's by telling a joke or working all this amount of time for this to rid the world of this disease, that he'll live on in people's lives, and he identifies with them completely, and he's kind of like a lost little kid that will never grow up.
So is that basically the closest explanation to why he did it, you think?
I mean, he knew that he was rushing everything for his career, and he had a lot of things to do, and then he wanted to do this, and try to find a cure by the end of his life.
Yeah.
But he didn't think that he had that long to live. And then I guess Jack Keller said, well, what are you waiting for? Like, you're the only one who has figured out the true story for himself without being told. And so he let him write that. So, I mean, that might be part of it. I don't think that's completely why he did that. I mean, as I said on the last time we discussed, we had our discussion, I mentioned that one little girl that was supposed to be adopted by the Lewises, and she never, she had muscular dystrophy, and she was like 3 or 4, and they had to take her back. The adoption agency was the one who made them bring her back, and it really, I'm not sure why they hid that, though. It's kind of odd.
Then back then, it was almost to have cancer back in the 40s and 50s and 60s. It was, the stigma was almost like having AIDS was in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was almost like that. It was just something that people didn't even want to mention. And I think that stigma may have been a factor. It's almost like they probably saw that child as, I hate to put it this way, but a defective good or something like that. Something that they didn't want associated with their name or something like that.
Well, I don't think that's how, I mean, I'm talking about like how Jerry and, like, why Jerry and Patty didn't admit to even having an adoption with that child, and they kind of just said, oh, that we never had that. We never had a daughter that was going to be adopted. So it was kind of odd that they would deny that, and I mean, it's a simple thing to just say.
Oh, so they were asked about it, and they were asked about it directly?
Yeah, and then Joe Stabile, Jerry's manager at the time, was denying it. The only one who came forward with the information was Jerry's former secretary.
Interesting.
So, and a lot of people had to do a lot of digging. And it was even mentioned in articles of the time that Jerry was going to adopt a child, or even had one at home that was a daughter in 1953. So
wow.
Why were they denied? Sometimes they're a little strange about the things that they're denying. Like, nobody cares. I mean, I'm sure if you told the full story of what happened, that people would understand. Just the way things were back then, that they'll take away their child, that had muscular dystrophy. And she probably died within a year. And it really, broke their hearts to have to give her back, because they were going to, give her the best care and love in that little time that she had left.
Wow. And they were really big on having a daughter, too. that was another thing for them. I hate Jerry Lewis's think pink bit from his show. It is so sexist and so ignorant. It's cute, but it just reeks of ignorance.
It's so cute. I mean, well, to be honest, I'm sure those boys were a handful at the time, and they later turned out to be really a handful. And I don't blame him for. I seriously think that if he had daughters that, or at least mostly daughters, or more daughters, or a daughter,
you
that
know what?
he wouldn't
I think
have.
You're right.
You know, it wouldn't have been like a fight against each other because the sons like didn't think they could measure up to him, or they felt like they had to measure up to him, or were living in the spotlight or the shadow of their father, especially for Gary or some of the other kids.
Do you remember the bit in his 82 autobiography? And I don't remember which son that Jerry said this to. So correct me if I got this quote wrong, but Jerry wrote himself in his book that he told one of his sons directly, my career and everything I did it all for me, not for you. And you were all just obstacles that got in the way. Now, was that just a heat of the moment thing?
I think so. I don't think he really believed that. From all the letters that he wrote to his wife, and
letters from where?
There's a lot on eBay.
Like when he was on tour or something like that, or?
Yeah, letters from when he was away from home. He wrote his wife like at least several letters a day, and then he would call her like up to 50 times a day. So
between hookers, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, guilt can make a man do things.
Okay. Speaking of, well, we'll go back to the call girl incident in a little bit. But he, I think he really loved his children, and then at a certain point, he got disenchanted with like everything that was happening, and I think that was around the 70s, where it just all was coming apart.
Well, he realized that he did get married as a child. He was 17 or 18 when they got married, or so. And you remember what he said on the True Hollywood Story? When he was making Hardly Working, and he was living in Florida at the time, and he had his back. He said, I never got to be a bachelor. I never got to have my bachelor pad. So he had this great condo, spent a lot of money getting together, and that was going to be his bachelor pad. And then he met the lady he would marry for the rest of his life. He said, I never got to use that damn bachelor pad.
I just think that he was just speaking in the heat of the moment because of the way he spoke privately about his sons. I think he just got fed up with them at some point.
Well, are there interviews from the son saying like this is the kindest, most wonderful thing Jerry ever said to me?
Well, they say things in Patty's book, and also there's like a documentary that Scott was making that was more positive. It was just him trying to deal with how he went through his life with his father and kind of the mental issues that he ended up having. And then also he was trying to figure out Jerry psychologically. They think that he was bipolar or whatever. He actually had a doctor that was like interviewed, and they were giving him all Jerry's symptoms or personality traits, and seeing what the doctor had to diagnosis without him being there, basically. So I mean, I think some of the stuff was spot on, but I don't think that they still got the real Jerry through his letters or his diary, because he wrote um, in his personal things that, how much he loved his wife and children, and he was just, some of like the ego that he put up was just a front, so he wouldn't get hurt. It's a lot like the Nutty Professor. So a lot of the stuff that he wrote for his films was also the real him, the real man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like a songwriter. Probably a songwriter's most honest feelings are in their lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Speaking of musicians, Kat, you were very instrumental in my band's cover art for our single, my band Sir Rod.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever got to see the final bit,
Nope.
but you did the hard work. You created a great juxtaposition of our images over that black and white image. And what I did was I just like really turned up the contrast to make it blend better.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll show it to you. So
Awesome. Yeah.
so, but thank you for doing that. So
You're welcome.
all right, Kat, Thad, are you still awake?
I'm still awake.
All right. All right, chime in. What do you want to know? What do you got to say? By the way, Thad has a broken. What is it that you broke? Your ankle?
Not broken, just knee injury. So this is why I'm more reclining than probably the rest of you.
Bless you. And you still haven't been able to get back to work yet, right?
No, I am. I can't, lift anything as of yet or whatever. And I can get around. I'm just very slow.
All right.
Crutch here and a crutch there.
So when are the three of us gonna get? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just like, hopefully one day the three of us can actually all do something in the same room, like a true round table discussion, maybe. But at least you two are going to help me put together that montage that I have been wanting to do for years, and I finally have what I think is a complete list. And of course, you guys are welcome to contribute to it. But I think I have got what these are moments where if someone who considers himself like pretty hip and cool and doesn't think Jerry Lewis is funny, I want that montage to be what they would see to prove them wrong. They say, no, Jerry was very hip and very funny. Lot of great humor. That's what I want. I wanted it to be the definitive Jerry Lewis montage. And, I guess it'll be my clown crowd. I'll probably make it, and then I'll refuse to let the world see it,
I would have to be a lot convincing, though. Like, I usually, if someone says they outright don't like Jerry, nah. Bye.
Well,
I know personally, I usually just don't trust those. Like, I can understand if, they're saying, the comedy, this comedy is subjective. But,
they're seeing the wrong things. There's plenty of good stuff out there. Yeah, they're seeing the wrong stuff.
At least saying, that he was a talented person. You can at least admit the talent that he had. You might not like him as a person or his comedy, but you gotta admit he was talented. You gotta admire him for that. And
what he could do with the catching a cigarette in his mouth, the baton, phenomenal dancer, fantastic singer, knew every joke that ever existed and delivered them with razor precision. And just a great physical comedian. When he pretended to be a puppet in that Martin Lewis Colgate, no one was doing stuff like that. This is a precursor to what Jim Carrey would later do. Jerry was the first to do all that, at least on that scale. I got a question for y'all. It's actually a telethon clown cried combo. Have you seen? We probably need to watch the 71 and 72 telethons and see if Jerry mentions the clown film in either of those telethons.
I remember hearing on the forum that, was it David Hartman? Is that who it was?
He was like the Ed McMahon for a while on the telethon.
Okay, yeah. I think somebody from the forum mentioned that during either the telethon or maybe it was the Tonight Show, he actually showed some behind the scenes stuff from Clown
Oh
Pride.
yeah, I've heard that now.
David
and
Hartman showed it. David Hartman showed it.
No, but I think David Hartman. I believe if I remember correct, David Hartman visited the set, or he was very close with Jerry at that time, and he went and visited him. And I think there was some movies during, like with David Hartman or something, and I believe it was either the Tonight Show or the Telethon, and it could have been both for who knows. But I don't know. Did he? He doesn't seem to plug his movies or did he? Did he plug his movies on the Telethon? I don't remember.
Well, he wasn't making. He wasn't really. He was making movies, from '66 to '70 when those are the first national telethons.
But I don't know if he ever mentioned doing that on the. Did he ever mention his movies on the telethon? It doesn't seem like something he would do. So it probably was the Tonight Show.
When he started making movies again in the '80s. I don't remember him talking about the King of Comedy. I remember him talking about the King of Comedy when he was on Saturday Night Live. I don't remember him talking about Cracking Up, Slapstick, or any of his movies on any of their 80s telethons.
Because I think he wanted to make them separate. He wanted to, he didn't want to probably. He wanted
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I believe I'm thinking of the Tonight Show. He was guest hosting in '70 or '71, and he was guest hosting all the time in the early '70s.
But David Hartman, I thought he wasn't on the telethon until '77, '78, because that's when that was during his tenure as the Good Morning America guy.
So I'm probably thinking of the Tonight Show, because I remember somebody on the old forum talking about it. They mentioned that they had seen it or had heard about it.
They saw the behind the scenes footage.
They remember that when he was guest hosting the Tonight Show, he had David Hartman on as a guest or something, and they showed little home movies from the set from Clown Pride.
Get out!
That's the story. Remember? I mean, Kat, did you hear that?
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah,
I haven't.
So and of course, I've always wanted to find it, but. That period of the Tonight Show is very, very, very hard to come by. I mean,
it's funny because there's a footage of a scene from You're Never Too Young where they show a clip, I think on one of Jerry's specials or something, and it's a scene from You're Never Too Young that's not in the final print of the official release.
That was on Colgate Comedy Hour that they showed that.
He's singing a song in the barber shop or whatever.
Yeah, Relaxez-vous.
Yes.
That him and Dean duetted on, but that musical scene was cut, sadly.
Interesting.
There is color footage of it on the documentary Bonjour, Monsieur Louis. So.
Still haven't watched that. Is that because is the reason I haven't watched it because it's all in French? I don't have much patience for subtitles for documentaries.
the people that are narrating are speaking French, but the clips are all in English.
Audi.
Crazy nutty man. I can handle that maybe, but I just can't really get into that. Yes, I'm probably offending all of our French speaking people. I'm just being silly like Jerry. What are you gonna ask me, Dad?
I was gonna say you're closer to the Library of Congress, so if you go there and see if you can find all these clips that we're mentioning, like the 71, 70 Tonight Show.
Where's the Library of Congress?
I think
is it in D.C.?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
That's not that close to me. I mean, yeah, I'm closer than you are, but hell, you live in Antarctica. I mean, geez,
But the funny thing is I've looked on their website because they have their thing catalog, and it doesn't seem like, because he donated 6 or 7 pallets of material to them or whatever, and they don't even have that much listed. I don't even know if they've cataloged all that.
You're big on emailing people and asking stuff. Ask the Library of Congress if they would consider creating an official Library of Congress YouTube channel.
That's an idea. Yeah.
Make it happen. Okay.
Ooh.
Do you have this? guys?
Yes. I got that very cheap at a thrift store.
So this is a 3 DVD thing, and it's got a bunch of extras, including a TV special he did. And so, is this going to be an ongoing series? And maybe we can see some, because these are complete episodes, I believe. No, these are. No, they're not. No, they're not.
So I've been very adamant, I guess the word is, because I've commented on the Carson estate, because when they started releasing episodes, I was like, hey, are we ever going to get guest hosted shows? Never got anything back from them. Then finally we got some New York stuff, and every time they on the same week they take out the one with Jerry, and I was like, hey, can we see that one? And then now they have a Facebook page where they're like, post what you want to see and request, and we'll put it up. And so I've requested it, and it's like they always snub Jerry every single time, and he was one of the most popular guest hosts in the 60s and 70s, and he's snubbed every single time. Whenever there's a death, when he died, I don't even think they probably showed the 84 one or whatever, and I was like, why can't you show a 70s one? Show one that we haven't seen before. It's almost like
the only reason I knew that Jerry even hosted it a lot is because of you. I grew up in that era. Well, not in the early 70s, but
he's even knowledge. So I bought the 4 decades of Tonight, and there's like a 20-page booklet in there. So it lists the 5 major guest hosts. Joey Bishop is like the top. Jerry Lewis is the second top. He hosted like 56 times.
Get out of here. Between what years?
It didn't say, but I mean, he did host. They might be counting after Johnny took over, because he did host for 2 weeks in '62 or whatever.
I think Jerry's third. I think it's Joan Rivers that was
second.
It's
like he's like either the second or third top, and he beats out David Letterman. He beats out a lot of other guest hosts, and and it's just like. It's like, I'm like, well, show some of that, show some of that older stuff.
Wow.
So I've been bugging them relentlessly to, release even the ones that Kat found, like a nice quality of the, of the 70s ones. And it's like, he always seems to get stuff. I mean, they did the 10th anniversary one, which was nice, because for years they had only the first 50 minutes, and the last half hour was, missing.
Do we know what Jerry was trying to take from his jacket to read on that 10th anniversary of the Tonight Show? And someone said something, so he just puts it back in his coat. Do we know what that piece of paper was? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. He was going to come back to that, and he never did.
Never did.
That was a really awkward. I don't know what he was taking out, but that was a really awkward appearance. Like, it seemed like he got.
Really? I have to watch it again.
The funny thing about that appearance is I think there were so many people, and they were all clamoring for attention. And the funny thing is like, on that particular episode, when Johnny asked him about, you were shooting a picture in Sweden, it's almost like I kind of wonder if things had gone so sour at that point that he didn't want to discuss it, because he did an appearance earlier, and like in one of the ones you posted, Kat, and he was more open to talk a little bit about that, but Johnny wasn't really asking him. But in that one, he just kind of almost shuts down. He's like, it's a great film. It's a great film. I finished completing it, and then he just kind of goes quiet.
Well, also, Johnny Carson made some joke, and he didn't think it was a joke, and he kind of seemed hurt, and then, Joey Bishop surprisingly backed him up, and says,
that was a little later. That was, that was later. Johnny, Jerry was talking about how, we all live here in L.A. and I never see you, Jack, Joey, Red, and then Johnny said, well, it never occurred to you, maybe nobody likes you, which I thought was funny. And then Joey Bishop said, hey, say what you want, but someone who can raise $10 million for charity deserves, whatever.
But isn't it Joey Bishop and Jerry didn't really get along? Is that the thing? Because that's what I've heard.
Because Jerry had a lit cigarette. Jerry had a lit
But
cigarette.
in general, I think they didn't get along. I've heard that. I've heard that.
I think they did at one time, but like because I remember when they were on What's My Line, Jerry said that him and Joey were friends. But then I think maybe something along the way happened and they didn't really like each other.
He became friends with Dean. He joined the Rat Pack.
It could be that.
It's either Dean's camp or Jerry's camp.
I mean, that's the kind of joke that I understand why Jerry was,
Well, there was a bit of truth to it because, but a lot of people didn't like Johnny Carson. Well, he was a great guy, but he was very shy and very private, and he was a mean drunk. When he drank, his ugly side really came out. It's not a lot of footage of that, but I've heard enough to believe that it's most likely true.
I have a question for both of you. So now that I've stated that he was the most popular guest host in the around, probably because he hosted a lot in '72, and then I think he did host because there's a Wikipedia list, you can look up all the episodes. He did host quite a bit in '73, but after '73, he just disappears from the Tonight Show completely. If there's a guest host, he doesn't really reemerge until I think '75. He does like one guest host episode, but he was doing it a lot in the
Jerry was doing other shows. He was trying to make a Broadway show happen. Ed was getting more involved with MDA, so I think that was maybe a factor. But Johnny still did the Tonight Show faithfully every year, at least through 1980. I don't know. I just think it just happened that way. I don't think there's any particular reason for it.
What is it? Did you see that Tonight Show episode with, what was it, Zsa Zsa Gabor, and Jerry comes on and he's like, I can't make it with my own show, but I'm a great sub for you.
No, I have not seen that
one. Have you seen that one, Kat?
What year was it?
It was in 1970. It came up on YouTube. It's still on YouTube, and Zsa Zsa Gabor and Jerry are the guests, and he comes out and Johnny's like, you're going to be guest hosting, and he's like, that's right. He's like, I can't make it with my own show, but I'm a great sub. He's like, every time I go on, I bomb. He's like, every time I go on, I get canceled.
Okay, I think I've seen that, but I don't remember Zsa Zsa Gabor being there. Let me look.
Yeah, she's on that. Yeah.
That shows that Jerry's cool.
It's like he even knew. He's like, I'm a great guest host, but whenever I go on as the host, I can't make it.
Yeah, that's
very, very true. Was very, very popular. I mean, he was very popular with audiences, and if he wasn't liked, I mean, he wouldn't have been brought back.
His late '60s show was way better the second year. The first year, but the second year, they changed the format. It really featured a lot of Jerry. It was really just the Jerry Lewis show, like he was performing at one of his concerts. That was the key, and they did some very clever visual gags and stuff. But here's what I'm wondering about for all those Tonight shows that he did. How good were his monologues? That's I guess you can call it a concern.
I've wondered that too. What is it? The 1969 episode, he apologizes for a joke he made regarding Mississippi on the previous night. Yeah. So, and then I believe I read in an article another time he insulted was it the governor or some official, and I don't know if he apologized. I can't remember the guy's name.
Interesting.
But it was over the race thing because one time they didn't want to. I know one time in particular they didn't like seeing him and Sammy shaking hands. That was earlier, but also it had something to do with race that time because that's why he was wanting to take a dump over the Mississippi in his plane.
If I've seen that footage, I don't quite remember how he put it, but I do remember he apologized for it, but then he zinged him again within
He
his
did.
apology.
I think it was something along the lines of, "Hey, I apologize, and if that doesn't work, I often wonder, like today with everybody having to apologize for everything, like if he would have had to apologize for something, like he probably would have done the same thing. I apologize. If you're not going to take it.
Yeah, I see a lot of articles on cancel culture, and yeah,
it's just like the thing you mentioned earlier with the telethon when he got in trouble. Like he kind of did apologize, but then he went and did it again, and it was like.
Well, his apology was saying, "I don't have any prejudice towards people in this regard," which is true.
Yeah.
He was just.
Dean did the same thing in his live show.
All the Rat Pack did. But,
he said that word. I mean.
But you have to be able to laugh at that stuff. It doesn't offend me, and I fall in that group. So it's just and and Dean Martin said, I enjoy it. So they're just camping it up. So whatever. But gosh, well, the clock is ticking. We're in our last minute here.
We gotta go.
One later. No, it's still going. It's still recording.
You cut out for a moment there.
Oh, my internet is very unstable. It's saying, okay, just like me. But so how about in our last minute? How about we do another one of these a lot sooner rather than later?
Yes,
I'm down.
2 weeks from now.
You want to do it? Okay.
Yeah,
and by the way, your mic sounds great. So that's lovely that your mic fixed itself in the last minute. But, no, it's been pretty good, especially when you were telling all us about the daughter and all that. So let's say sayonara. And this was fun. I love you guys. We'll do it again.